So in this episode of Viral Rewind, we're looking at the Afori DOS virus, A-F-O-R-I, and it's a non-dangerous memory-resident parasitic virus, so it doesn't do anything destructive to the system. All it does is basically infect and replicate, and it's got a payload that was a little troublesome to record for this video. I'll explain for that in a little bit. So anyway, we have Afori there in our temporary DOS directory, so let me go ahead and run it. And when we do, we get a little goat file printout telling us the size of the infection, and it's basically loaded itself into memory, so it's terminate state resident. So any .com files that we run from here on will be infected with Afori. I don't believe it infects .exes, but we can check that real quick. So let's go back to our DOS directory. So let's check the sys command, which is 11472. Run sys and check it again. And now it's 12,128 bytes. So it's now carrying the Afori DOS virus code with it. Let's try something like xcopy and see if it does this with .exes. And indeed it does. Xcopy has gone up to 17,744 bytes from 17,087. So Afori does infect .exes along with .coms. So that's pretty much how the virus infects and replicates again. Once you load it the first time, it gets into memory, takes over interrupt 21H, which is the file access interrupt, and then it runs its infection routine and will infect all the .com and .exes that you run thereafter. And of course, if you infect something like command.com, well then you pretty much guarantee that Afori runs every time the computer boots up. Now, for the payload is kind of an interesting thing because it's a graphical payload that messes with all the text on the screen, whether we're at the DOS prompt here or if we're in a program like the MS-DOS editor, which allows us to type and make changes and write stuff there as well. The problem is that Afori's payload is based on the system timer, which is at interrupt 1CH. So not only again is it hooking interrupt 21H for file access to infect files to replicate, it also hooks into interrupt 1CH for the system timer because that's what its payload is dependent upon. Now the downside is that I found out during this virus is the system timer with how it's set up. It's very random when the payload occurs. It could be a few minutes or it could be a few hours. Again, it's a very random time. And I've already shot just a video waiting for the payload to occur about 2 or 3 times, and I finally got one where it happened, and that's what you're actually going to see, because again, I don't know how long it would take here waiting to see if the payload is going to occur or not. So what I'm going to do now is simply show you that payload in action. There goes the payload. Jeez, how long did that take to execute? So you basically saw how the payload of Afori works there. It basically represents how the Cascade DOS virus works, which is just another virus we haven't seen yet, but it has a very similar payload with the letters falling down to the bottom of the screen there. Of course, as it's doing that, it's got a sound effect too, where ping, 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 as it drops the letters there. And then, of course, you can clear the screen and it all goes away. Now, the only thing I don't know is does the payload repeat or not? That's the one thing I only don't know about it. But that's pretty much how the payload of the Afori DOS virus works, and that's pretty much overall all I have for it.